Joining me now, Republican strategist and president of the public affairs firm Sohm Consulting, Evan Siegfried, and Democratic strategist Basil Smikle, the former executive director of the New York Democratic Party and former senior aide to Hillary Clinton. Basil, if I may start with you, how do we manage to have a lively, important, substantive political debate in which we can get important issues discussed, but we can take the poison out of it?
Well, I think first and foremost, stay off of social media. Because I think what that does is it has the effect.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, following people is one thing. Debating them on social media is another story, because what that ends up doing is driving people really to their core beliefs and to the extremes without having the ability to have a good exchange of ideas. And I think, honestly, being courageous enough, if I can say this, to go to places that are uncomfortable for you, right, and have meaningful conversations with people about sort of your shared interests. And I think we're not doing that enough. And certainly because of the way our lines are drawn politically, it forces even those who are elected to office to have a conversation with a fairly homogenous community, and that also drives the conversation.
I mean, it's true, isn't it, Evan? Social media is striking. I've noticed this over a long period now, that people will say things on social media that they would never dream of saying to your face. I mean, they just never, ever, it somehow emboldens them to be as offensive as they possibly can be.
You can be anonymous on social media, and you can say, I really don't like you because you're a Boston Red Sox fan. And I think we should exclude Boston Red Sox fans from anything, because, as a Yankees fan, that's my one asterisk.
I'm a Washington Nationals fan, so I'm sorry. I'm totally neutral in that.
We agree across party lines.
Yeah, but really, I think instead of staying off social media, I think we should harness its power for good. We see all the time that social media spreads messages of, hey, somebody's in trouble, and they put up a GoFundMe, and people will respond from all ends out there. Also, I have people who come up to me and they'll say, I disagree with you on the issues so much, but I follow you because you post pictures of your dog and he's really cute, or some other interest, because we realize that we are more than just political differences. We are things that we're held together by things, such as dogs. Pedigree did a really wonderful social experiment in the 2016 election, where they took people and they had them wearing Hillary outfits and running around with an empty dog leash at a Trump rally. And they said, can you help me find my dog? Right. And what would a Trump rally normally happen? They'd scream, lock her up. And they said, no, we'll help you find the dog. And then they did the exact opposite. They put them in MAGA gear and sent them to Hillary rallies. It showed that we are far more connected than we realize, or people would like to say, because of social media. So I think even if you find somebody you disagree with, you need to go out and find things that you agree with them on, such as the Red Sox being bad.
Let's not keep going there. So the answer is more animals in politics. Bring more pets into politics. But no, seriously, I mean, people do. How do we get away from the feeling that people do feel disenfranchised, right? They feel powerless, and they lash out because they feel powerless. How do we get people involved, making them feel more empowered, and then perhaps therefore reducing some of that contempt?
So, by the way, that's on both sides of the aisle, too. Both Democrats and Republicans feel that way. One solution, actually, that I'm very passionate about is putting civics back in schools. We actually don't teach civics anymore. And just understanding how government works, understanding the power of your vote, understanding why our systems are in place, and then how to affect change with those systems or against those systems, I think is incredibly important, because then you don't feel as helpless anymore, number one. And number two, I think just going out and going to local community meetings, or talking to your neighbor, just trying to get a sense that, you know what, I'm not in this by myself. And I think that isolated feeling, so many more Americans have. And I will go back to your point about social media, because I think that's one of those ways, if it's used appropriately, that you can bridge that divide. If you're in rural America, you're in upstate New York, and you want to connect to somebody in Manhattan or in the Bronx, where I grew up, we have a lot more in common than we don't. But if we can communicate over social media and share pictures of family and dogs and so on, it disrupts that isolationist feeling.
Historically, though, and I hate to say this is going to sound a very pessimistic thing to say, but these periods of great partisanship and where people really seem to really strongly dislike each other have kind of been settled, by an external threat, by an external attack. I mean, the country was very divided in December 1941, and Pearl Harbor happened, and then the country came together. You could argue the country came together, obviously, after 9/11. Is there something short of some terrible disaster or some war that can actually get people to overcome these differences?
I think we aren't as divided right now as people think we are, because we're hearing the loudest voices on social media and on cable news, and we're not seeing that people on the street aren't mimicking that same behavior. If I trip and I fall down, people aren't going to walk away from me because I'm a Republican. They're going to say, hey, how can I help you? And I think that is actually a positive thing. I hope we don't have to have some event that unites us, because I think we have enough unity so far. We can always build on that.
Yeah.
But I think we also have a responsibility, being in the public eye, and our leaders especially, to tone it down and to say, you know what? Your idea, I don't agree with it, but let's work through it.
But people are appealing to emotion rather than reason right now. Isn't that part of the problem?
Absolutely. I tell my students this all the time. People vote for one or two reasons, pride or anger. But fear is one of the strongest motivators to action. Sometimes violent action, unfortunately. And I will say, though, I do feel that we're pretty divided, because particularly as a person of color, an African-American man, I feel that we're in a very dangerous place in our country right now. That doesn't cause me to act, A, out of character, or B, violently. But it does make me say, you know what, I need to have more conversations with folks. I need to get people to understand that there's a better way to governance. There's a better way to actually talking about our differences that we're not seeing in the public eye.
Got to wrap there. If people could only have a conversation like these two guests, I think we'd get over a lot of these problems much more quickly. My thanks to Basil Smikle and to Evan Siegfried, and we'll be right back with my thoughts on how we can perhaps all do better in the way we talk to each other. Stay with us.